Intro. Welcome back to the Two Joes podcast. Mojo Studio, Main Joe at the controls.
Mojo Studio.
Oh, I said
live
Main Joe?
and direct.
Did I say Main Joe
I think
Studio?
you did.
Darn it.
I just wanted to clarify. We're at Mojo Studio. So glad to have Mojo back.
You know, my Joe's a good name, but Mojo is better.
Yeah, I think so.
How's your mojo? How's your energy?
My mojo is low because I've been working on my deck all weekend, but I'm here for you people. I'm here for the folks listening to this podcast.
We care about you, the home listener. You know, I pulled out from David Letterman from years ago. He was staring at the camera and say, because we all care about you, the home viewer. You know,
he's a legend.
Yeah,
legend. I love him. Yeah. I'm your TV friend, and they'd zoom up real tight.
Well, there's a worthy subject right there. I wrote a few subjects down, but we had to stick on Letterman just for a moment.
Yeah, let's talk about my buddy Dave. I remember watching him back in high school. Actually, before that even. Yeah. I think I was in the third grade. Me and a friend of mine were comparing notes, and we're like, oh, we must have had a snow day or something. Did you watch any TV yesterday morning? Oh, yeah, man, I watched Captain Kangaroo. And then there was this weird dude on TV, and his name was David Letterman, and he had this really cool apple peeler, and we were talking about this cool apple peeler that Letterman had on.
Yeah.
But so that was my first exposure to Letterman, was that morning show he had for a while. But when I was in high school, it'd be like after the football game, hey, let's go to so-and-so's house and watch Letterman. All right.
Yeah. And my question on Letterman, to all you listeners who might be fans, when did he switch to suits? Nothing but suits. Back in the early days, he would wear jeans and argyle sweaters and wrestling shoes out on stage.
Wrestling shoes?
Yeah, when he would do some of his specials and his remotes, and yeah, the latter part of his career on TV.
Sure you don't mean bowling shoes?
No, they looked like wrestling shoes.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember those days at all. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was back in high school, back in those days.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, years later, I just remembered, you know, he wears nothing but suits and ties now.
Yeah,
so
and
he
for a long time, he was famous for his double-breasted suits. I remember in the day when it came from me, I met my wife, and we were living with her grandma, and we took her to the Bravenel Hall to see the symphony a lot. Mm-hmm. And so they said, you need a suit. You can't go like that, right?
Yeah.
So they took me down to Nordstrom, and I got a double-breasted suit in honor of David Letterman.
Nice.
I still own that suit to this day.
Yep, I got a double-breasted too. It wasn't in honor of Letterman, but I love it.
I love mine too.
Sharp suit. I like it.
I can still fit in it. All these years later.
Of course you can.
I'm happy about that.
Well, you're a hockey player at 53.
Well, it's not like I don't have to work at it, dude. Don't fool yourself. You get over 50, man, that weight just starts packing on.
The dojo's mom once told me, this is 20 years ago, you hit 50 or mid-50, your body just changes.
Metabolism slows. It's a thing. It's a fact. It happens.
Yeah. I remember Keith Richards, guitarist for the Stones.
Skinny as a rail.
Yeah, and still smokes a pack a day to this day and everything. And they said, well, give us one of your philosophies on life. And he goes, well, nobody wants to get old, but nobody wants to die young either. So, and that was it. He stopped right there. And that pretty much said everything.
Yeah.
So I guess he's inferring just grow old as slowly as you can.
That, and just enjoy your time as much as you can. That's why I was telling Mojo in the last segment, I'm going to hire someone to do this deck from now on, because I spent way too many hours this weekend and last week. In addition, life is too short. I don't have that many days left. I don't want to spend a whole 52 weeks of the year, and I'm going to spend one of those weeks on my fucking deck.
Yeah. You could be jamming, you could be golfing,
and just relaxing, and having a beer, and
listening to music.
Anything's better than working on that deck. As much as I love the deck, as much as I love that house, if I can afford it, I'm going to find someone to help me. Yeah,
dude, I'm very similar to that. I was raised to be a learn how to do it yourselfer type of, whether it's roof
You put in your own attic insulation. Holy crap. That's amazing to me. I would never even consider myself to try and do something like that.
My dad taught me how to do plumbing, with the blowtorch and the flux and everything, the solder and electrical, and we put in the swamp cooler, the water heater. He taught me everything. How to change my own oil, all that stuff.
Awesome.
And I fully support that for young people. Learn how to do that.
Well,
Absolutely.
in the early days, it really helps to know how to change your own oil because it costs money to bring it in and have someone do it for you. But if you just buy the oil and do it yourself, it's a lot cheaper.
Much. And then the quality of the oil change, excuse me, is so much better because you go to one of these quickie places, they drain your oil for a total of about 2.5 minutes. Whereas you do it yourself, you go pull the plug and then go have lunch and let every bit of that sludge drain out. Let it drain over the course of a couple hours.
You know, and that's one of the reasons why I do my own deck, too, is because I know I'm going to scrape every last loose bit of paint off there before I put the new stuff on.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
But
I'm at the age now where I have all this knowledge, but not the energy, the stamina, the flexibility, the
desire,
the inclination to go do it. So what I want to do now is train younger people to do this stuff. You know, like Dojo Son and Hi Joe.
Well, and give them a little spending money too. I think that's a valid or a noble thing to do. I think.
Yeah. Those two have worked out really well.
That's cool.
Coming over here and working for your humble correspondent, Mojo.
If you want to get to know him a little bit, check out our podcast titled Generation Z.
Generation Z, 3 segments, very, very charming, engaging young men, and we were grateful to have them on.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And Joe's working on my website, and Hojo goes out and takes care of my yard, and I pay him equal, the same hourly rate. Which would you rather be doing, Main Joe?
Well, yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit on the podcast too. And even when I was considering what am I going to do for my livelihood when I grow up and all that, it's like I knew my back wasn't going to last forever, and that's a tough way to make a living. It's noble, it's valid, it's all that, but you can't do it as long as if you do something that you use your mind for your living. So that's why I became a programmer and I think I made the right call because here I am trying to do my deck and my back is screaming at me. Yeah. Just think if I had to do that every day, if I was a deck refinisher for a living, what I mean? Maybe I'd make great money, but boy, my body would just hate me for it.
My dad had a friend, I'm going to mention a full name here. Excuse my hiccups again. Excuse me, home listeners. My dad had a friend from way back who built homes. He worked for the federal government for a while and then just quit to go and start his own business building homes. He has a unique name, Larry Walschlager.
Wow.
It was fairly memorable. I remember when I mentioned that name to W. Joe, he goes, "Who?" And he goes, "Larry Wal." And I said, "Larry Walschlager. He's coming over here tomorrow? I'm going to be here to meet that. I got to meet Larry Walschlager." So anyway, I had my roof done about 9 years ago. And Larry Walschlager, being a close friend of the family and my dad and everything, even when my dad had passed away about that time, anyway, he was going to come and do me right. He was going to give me a deal and make sure it was done correctly. So this guy, 78 years old, comes over. And he's disheveled and looks like a typical construction worker. He's got hair coming out of his ears, look like bird nests and everything, and hunched over, a cigarette hanging out of his mouth at 78 years old. And he doesn't come over and knock on my door. What he does is he comes over and puts his ladder against my roof and climbs up there, and I hear somebody up on my roof. And there's a 70-year-old dude. He just climbed right up there like it was nothing and said, "Okay, there's a problem there. We can take care of that." And all right. So it took him about 8 minutes to give me a bid of $6,200 to do my roof. And I'm thinking, 78 years old, climbing up on roofs still. He's been doing that since he was probably 25. I guess some people are better suited for it.
Well, there you go. Maybe he's not hurting like my body would be hurting. But on the other hand, I have a friend who I want to get on the podcast. He builds homes for rich and famous, for millionaires. He builds mansions, essentially. He's a little older than me. I think he's 56 or 57. And his body's starting to give out on him, You
mentioned him in a previous segment.
I think I might have. It might have been a practice podcast. But he climbs ladders every day. He walks the joists. He hauls equipment up and down the ladders, and then after doing that all day, he comes and plays hockey with me on Thursday nights. Wow. And he's amazing. He's tough as nails, but even he realizes I don't want to do this much longer because it's getting tough. So he's only
in his 50s too.
Yeah, he's approaching 60 pretty quick, though, and he's looking at driving for Lyft or Uber. But I don't know if that's a career. That's something to help pad those
It's
hours.
a supplement. Yeah.
It's a supplement.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I want to have him on the podcast for, is because, he's not making a living wage, really. He works his ass off. They consider him self-employed. He doesn't really get vacation. He really gets no benefits. I think it's just one of the travesties of this capitalist system that we live in. Someone who builds homes for the millionaires should at least bring home enough to feed his family and buy a house and have a car. And
it's a great question, Manjo.
Is that too much to ask?
It's one of the main
hours
reasons,
he can count on.
It's one of the main reasons that I'm not a conservative/Republican. Because I believe conservatives have a good view on the way life should be, but they ignore the way life really is. They very much ignore it. Case in point, that McDonald's hamburger workers.
Yeah.
You start out there when you're young, and then you go to school and you get trained, and then you
work your way up. That's the way it used to be.
That's the way it should be.
Used to be. I'm going to go with used to be.
Okay, fair enough.
Should be.
It was more so back in the 50s and 60s. Agreed.
Or even in the 80s.
Yeah, but dude, now we have 28-year-old college graduates who are working at McDonald's because they have there's no other prospects. There's nothing else.
I tried to bring that up in one of the other podcasts. It's like, I think because all our manufacturing jobs have left, that's really kind of the only job a lot of people can get that maybe would have the manufacturing job that would pay more than minimum wage.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why we need to raise minimum wage.
Well, now we're going back to Andrew Yang. We're going to Andrew Yang again.
Oh, dude, if we're going to go politics a little bit, we don't have to go too heavy, but I want to I want to tell everyone that for the first time in my whole life, I've been on this planet for half a century. For the first time, I have donated to a political campaign.
Who?
Can you guess? 20 questions. Guess who I donated my first hard-earned dollar to a political campaign for?
Is she from Hawaii?
Right out of the box! Woo! Now, do you know me too well, or how did you guess that right off the
Because
bat?
we're both big fans of that woman.
And part of it was talking, I think, to Shy Joe in one of the other segments. We were talking about her, and I just don't think she's catching on enough.
No, she's not.
She's so much better than Elizabeth Warren, but she has not nearly the traction Elizabeth Warren's getting.
She's better than Harris, better than Bernie,
I think
better than all of them.
Part of that is, I don't know about Bernie, but part of that is because the media, it's fucking media. They're pumping Elizabeth Warren up because they know they can manipulate her. They know she's kind of wishy-washy. Bernie's been saying the same thing for fucking 60 years. He's not wishy-washy.
Yeah,
and
true,
Tulsi,
true.
She seems as legit and as genuine and as authentic as any politician I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And Andrew Yang, he's right up there too. I think those are my top three: Bernie, Tulsi, and Andrew Yang now.
Those are mine. Buttigieg has slipped in my view. I've researched some of the things you said about him.
He accepts PAC money right there on Tulsi's website that I donated to her. She says, I accept no PAC money.
Yeah. Let's get into that one a little bit later. Let's stay on Tulsi for a moment and the media. The media is to blame for her not getting any traction, I believe.
I believe so.
Because what are they looking for? Dude, when Trump was running back in 2016, the media slobbered all over themselves to cover that guy because they knew it was ratings. And why are they covering Warren and Kamala Harris and Biden? Because they know there's a rift. There's a possibility of a battle between Trump and those guys. Well, Tulsi Gabbard, she's too sensible to battle with Trump. Trump won't mess with her at all because he's got nothing to go on there. What's he going to do? Call her Pocahontas or Moa or something? He's got nothing.
She's
so the media is going to stay away from Tulsi Gabbard.
She's a major in the military. She is so solid, so unflappable. I just love her so much. She seems so solid. I think she'd be a great president.
And allow my sexism to come out. I am very attracted to her. As physically attracted. I find her appealing, which means nothing, of course. I understand that, home listeners, but my goodness. Talk about your full package candidate right there. What is America doing? I don't get it.
It's not like Obama was ugly, I think there's something to be said for looks. I mean, I know people hate to talk about that, and they think it's sexism and all this, but...
it's human nature.
It's human nature. That's the way we're wired, man.
Well, you remember the Kennedy-Nixon debates when Kennedy beat Nixon?
They said it was because of TV.
It was TV, and the fact that somebody had the bright idea to approach John Kennedy and say, we need to make makeup. We need some
makeup.
So Nixon looked like this sweating little troll over on the side, and Kennedy looked all suave and perfect.
Well, why do you think Trump tans himself all the time?
Yeah, but that's exactly.
He has the plastic hair that he has.
Even though his makeup job doesn't make him look better, it doesn't help.
It makes him a cartoon character, which, in my opinion, is what he is.
Yeah, he looks like Orange Theory, or Orange Soda, whatever that search engine name was. I forget. Sorry, listeners.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I wanted to approach a subject on another movie I saw recently, not yesterday, but a movie called Booksmart.
Booksmart. I don't think I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it didn't get much traction. It was one of the best comedies I've seen in years. Wow. And it did not get much traction.
I think you might have mentioned this one to me before. Was there three girls in it?
There were two main girls.
Two main girls.
Two main protagonists.
Okay. Yeah.
And there was a scene in that movie that I didn't even think about
Spoiler alert.
Not really. No.
Is it an older movie?
No. Came out within the last 6 months, 3 months.
Spoiler alert.
Well, all right.
I'm just a little nervous about it because you made a comment about the Game of Thrones ending the other day, and I was editing the podcast, and I was thinking, man, I hope people don't get too mad about that because it seems a little bit of spoiler alerty there. So I just want to throw it out there.
I want to apologize to both you listeners.
Right on, bro.
In this movie,
for future reference, we're gonna try and do spoiler alerts. All right, when we have listeners,
we have to. Yeah.
I love it.
So, and this one actually is nothing about the movie; it's more the political climate. Something I saw, a scene in this movie where I went. 2 days later, I went, whoa, wait a minute. Did that really happen? Is that what is going on in America now? Because it was it was handled in such a real life manner that let me break it down as briefly as I can, listeners. It's the last day of school at some high school, and there was a bathroom. There was a large bathroom that maybe have been a locker room, either the guys or the gals' locker room, whatever it was. Anyway, the scene opens, and there are two guys in there and one gal sitting around the sink, and they might have been smoking a cigarette or a joint. I don't remember, really. And then in one of the stalls was another female who was one of the main leads in the movie. And they didn't know she was in the stall. They were kind of talking about her and her friend being such straight A, squared egg type of people. And then she comes out of the stall after she finishes urinating or shitting, whatever she was doing in there, and then talks to them. They have a confrontation, and then she storms out. And the last shot of the scene was these two guys and one gal in the bathroom. Whose bathroom was it? There's my first question. Was it a girl or a guy's bathroom? And is it now becoming more accepted this way? Or did the movie try to subtly put that in there? I didn't even think about it while I was watching the scene. But what were two guys doing in the girls' bathroom, or what were two girls doing in the guys' bathroom?
Are we talking high school?
Yes.
Okay.
It was on a high school campus. And I'm thinking it reminded me of Starship Troopers from 20 years ago, where the male and female cadets would just shower naked together, and it was no big deal to them at all.
I know. Just for reference, my sister went to a kind of a more of a liberal college, I guess, or I don't know, whatever you call it. I don't know why I use the word liberal. Just, young people doing their thing, and they had this little dial on the bathroom, and they had this is in the dorms. They had co-ed dorms, so the male and females were all on the same floor, and on the bathroom you could dial it to what you wanted. This is a co-ed bathroom while I'm in there. This is a female bathroom only when I'm in there. A male bathroom only while, and then and that's so. If you walked up to that and said, "Oh, it's co-ed," then you just go right in. There could be girls in there, And so that's how they did it. And I've seen bathrooms since recently where it's male-female bathrooms rather than this is a male bathroom, that's a female bathroom. I was in California, actually. I was in California when I was on my trip. They had two bathrooms, and both were co-ed. It wasn't like that they were, male-female. Both were one-shooters, so it's not like what you're talking about, but still, either could use them.
Yeah, it's I'm really... I don't know, I guess the progressive in me, the futurist comes out in me, where, men and women, we both know that we pee and poop, and it's not a big deal, and we can use any bathroom we want, and I guess we've got to get over some things, because I don't know what the word is, the sexist in me, or the misogynist, or the not the masochist, the masculine part of me. I don't want to be taking a dump with a gal right next to me, in the stall next to me.
I don't think it would bother me.
Yeah, and it shouldn't. And
because
we have to get past that.
Whenever I'm in the airport and whatever, I don't know who's in the stall next to me anyway.
Well, it's a male. Well, it may be a formerly female person.
And I don't care, because I never see their face.
It doesn't matter.
Even if he walks up next to me while I'm washing my hands, I wouldn't know if that was the guy next to me or not.
Yeah.
I don't know that it matters a whole lot.
What if Penelope Cruz walks out of the stall next to you?
And washes her hands. Well, then I might wonder, was she in the stall next to me?
I think Albert Einstein once had a quote that I think applies here. He said, he cannot envision world peace ever happening until the entire population of the globe evolves towards a vegetarian diet. I want to analogize that with, also, I don't think world peace will happen until we get past this gender thing. We have to be separated. We can't pee next to each other. We can't shit. We can't shower next to each other.
We have entire countries where they dress them up in all these clothes because they can't handle seeing their bodies, essentially.
Yes, that's very true.
It's religious, I guess, in nature, from what I understand, but that's why.
Well, let's get past it.
Because they can't deal with it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories to tell when this subject comes up, I was probably reading some, I used to love reading those stories in the back of Penthouse or whatever. And
the forum. Oh,
yeah.
I know you won't believe this is true, but it actually happened.
And so this guy's talking about, he's on a nude beach, right? And these 3 young, beautiful girls come up, and they're in these sundresses, and he's like, wow, they're so beautiful. And then they get nude because it's a nude beach. And then he's like, oh my gosh, they're so beautiful. And so he dwells on them for a while, but then he goes back to reading his book or whatever and doesn't pay them much attention. And then they come up, and they're giggling and laughing, and they're like, still nude, and they're drying themselves off and all that, but then they start putting back on the sundresses. And he said that was more arousing than them taking off their sundresses.
There you go. That's it.
You know what I mean? So it's like our minds, don't get too hung up on your body. It's just housing your mind.
Don't get hung up on sexuality. Don't get hung up. I mean, we're mammals. Let's remember where we came from, and just get past it. We used to exist in herds, male and female together all the time.
Not much for clothes, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly right. It's and you know what? It might be better.
I don't know.
Well, if some nice young fit lady wants to stroll into the huddle naked, I think there should be no law against that at all.
It might be a distraction for 5-10 minutes, but I think after that, everyone would go back to what they were doing before.
They'll go back to their beer. Yeah. Well, Shy Joe just showed up.
Let's wrap up this segment. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We'll be back with Shy Joe in the house at Mojo Studio.
Mojo,
Woo, he's
Mojo
back.